Hey, Taco Tuesday fans, this is Christian Brindle.
And I am Glen Shelton.
We came together and combined our forces to create something special for insurance agents called Taco Tuesday. Let's taco about insurance. My company, Christian Brindle Insurance Services,
and my company, Lead Heroes,
is here to bring you the latest and greatest news happening in the insurance industry today and eat some tacos while we do it.
If you enjoy the content that we put out on this podcast, feel free to leave us a review or subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes.
Without further ado, let's get into this episode of Taco Tuesday. What's up, Taco Tuesday
What's
Army?
going on?
We're back with another episode. My name is Christian Brindle. He's Glen Shelton. And this is Taco Tuesday. Let's talk about insurance.
It's pretty early, you guys. We are pre-recording. As you know, we're kind of pre-lunch. So although I believe we're both are you sans tacos today as well?
I am.
Okay.
But I do have some retro bro, Dutch Bros coffee. You know? I've been getting it every morning. I probably spent $500 on it.
Today's episode is sponsored by Dutch Brothers. What's your go-to? I'm curious. While we're on camera here, what's your go-to coffee order?
All right, so it depends on where I go. Like if I go to Starbucks, I want a caramel macchiato every time.
Iced or hot?
Iced. It's like 20 degrees out right now, and I'm getting iced coffee. Like
we are so opposite. It's crazy.
I like and drink hot coffee, but like it's coffee. I don't like it unless it's like coffee I make myself, and I put cream in it and that kind of stuff. And like I'm weird like that. But like at Dutch Bros, I get this thing called the Golden Eagle, and it's like it's gone now, but it's like a caramel macchiato, but it's different. It's like lighter coffee, you know, it's got some cream.
If you had to pick between Dutch Brothers and Starbucks, which one would you typically pick?
Right now, Dutch Bros, because I'm into it. But like I'll probably 2 months from now, I'll probably switch over to Beans and Brews, and then I'll switch back to Starbucks. Like I jump all over the place. Like I was into McDonald's coffee for a while because it was like $1.
Yes.
And then after drinking it for like a month straight, I'm like, this tastes like mucus. So I stopped getting it.
Their McDonald's iced coffee is actually surprisingly good. I had a long kick where I was drinking that quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I'm on the opposite of this, but like I could be in Phoenix, which as many of you know, I grew up in Phoenix. It could be 100 degrees, which it often is 100 or more. And I'm getting hot coffee because and this is my theory, you guys. For the record, before we get into Taco Tuesday, let's talk about it. I believe hot water absorbs into your body better. So I feel like the coffee hits me different when it's hot versus when I drink it cold. That could be just like my own personal antidote. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah. I think teach their own, right? Like it's interesting about Dutch Bros because my assistant was telling me the other day, because she saw me walking in with it like day after day after day. She's like, what is up with you? Like, and then she's like, you know, they're like a really old company, right? And they're just having a resurgence. And like, you know, there's this whole retro thing going on with like, you know, the nostalgia of it. I'm like, I thought it was like a brand new company.
Bro, it's an Oregon company, bro.
Really?
Yeah, dude. It started in Southern Oregon.
Wow.
And when I first moved to Oregon, it wasn't as big as it is now. And I was like a huge snob. I went through the same kind of thing you did, where like I was like, oh, you're drinking Starbucks? I was like, oh, shame on you. And I would like only drink Dutch Bros. Now, like I never go to Dutch Bros. I'm almost always going to Starbucks when I go get coffee.
It's definitely a thing where like, you know, you go through phases, you get tired of something, you have to bounce to something else. Like I have a client that runs a Badass Coffee here. And that's like the name of it, Badass Coffee.
Oh, I thought you were just saying badass.
No, it's just the name of it. It's called Badass Coffee. It's a franchise apparently. And I was going to support her for a little while because like they have 4 policies with me or something like that. They have an ACA plan with me. They have life insurance with me. They have dental with me, and they have a cancer plan with me. And so I was like, I love you. And so I was going to get
take my money.
But like their coffees were like $8 a cup.
Wow.
Which I'm like,
good coffee, bro.
I'm like, and it was good, but it wasn't that good.
It's an $8. It's good.
So I stopped going, and I still try to drop in every now and then. But yeah, I go all over the place. I love me some sugar-filled iced coffee.
Low key, this is the last thing I'll say about coffee. I know there's probably some people watching or listening at this point. They're like, are they just going to talk about coffee for the next 30 minutes? Hour. There was this little coffee stand I used to go to by my house. It was like a non-branded, just, sole proprietor coffee stand. And the lady that owns it, she was driving a Tesla around. And I just remember every time I would go, I'd be like, I need to own a coffee stand one day. I'm like, clearly this lady is making money. I love it. I love small businesses, dude. I think it's awesome.
When I was a new agent, I had all these dreams that I was going to buy all these businesses when I was like 21, 22, and it might still happen. We'll see. But
it will.
But one of my dreams was I wanted to buy. I was used to say I wanted to buy a coffee shop or start a coffee shop or something like that. Like not be in insurance, but do that too. And I realized that insurance is kind of time consuming. But
is it?
Yeah, a little bit. But
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of these days, man, I might start up a franchise of some sort. I don't know.
I'm in, dude.
Six-figure coffee.
6-figure coffee, tacos and coffee.
$100,000 coffee.
$100,000 coffee. There's gold flakes in your coffee, sir.
Yeah.
Joy.
It's toxic, so you don't actually drink it, but
pour it out. But that'll be $100,000, sir.
So we have an amazing topic today, and I want to make sure we have as much time to talk about it as possible.
Yes, it's a big one,
and it was a topic that you brought up. You thought it would be a good idea to discuss, and I thought I was like, it's perfect because it's something that I think we both see and deal with all the time, consistently, and that's what successful agents do to manage their time. Versus the opposite, and what is the differentiation there? Because I feel like time management is a huge determination of how successful someone's going to be and like how valuable they take their time. And like everybody thinks they're good with their time, but how many people really are?
I feel guilty every day about my time, right? Like I'm always thinking like, what could I have done more? Or what did I do that I shouldn't have done? And for better or for worse. So I think it is one of those things though, where like, I think time management is a direct correlation with how successful or how much money you're going to earn as a business owner, as an insurance agent, as an agency owner. I mean, you can't, like, again, as an agency owner, you can't spend, just like a quick example here, you guys, like if you were trying to scale a team, you can't also spend all of your time selling insurance. Like you have to spend some of that's really simple. And I say that because again, one of the first agencies that I was a part of when I first got my license, the very first manager I had, he was great. He actually spent all of his time on the team. Okay. And very, very rarely would he meet with a client. And usually it was like annuity cases, right? Like he was, and I thought he managed his time pretty well. He then leaves, and the next agency owner or manager that comes in, complete opposite. He is almost exclusively selling insurance as the manager and spending very little time with the team, coaching, training. And so again, I mean, that's just a quick example of how you manage your time is going to affect your success, your day-to-day, different results, right? Those two people I just mentioned, very different results on how they're spending their time and what it's going to turn into, right? One of them's really trying to build a team. The other one's really trying to build their own book, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, the show has kind of documented this pretty well since we've been doing it for a couple years now. But you could use me as an example for that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was somebody that, to where even though I have employees, I have an office, I have infrastructure, where I didn't have enough to take enough off my schedule to where I was only having to do one thing in my business or something like that. Like, I was for probably 2 years, I was heavily bringing on agents, training agents, working with agents, but I was also writing a lot of business. Like, so 2000, I'm going to share something with the audience here.
Ooh.
And I've told a couple people this on the phone, and they're just like, that is insane. They're like, I feel bad for your wife and your kid, you know, like when I could. So last year. So this year was the first year that I basically begun the process of stepping away from writing business. I'm still having to take on as needed, but we're hiring people. We brought on agents and things like that, and they're working up and they're being trained. So I'm laying the groundwork to completely remove myself from the day-to-day of selling.
Right.
But last year, I wrote 350 new clients myself. Plus, I was managing about 120 downline agents, running 2 podcasts, 2 YouTube channels, running employees, an office, the whole 9 yards. So I wrote 350 new apps, right? I had 1 month where I wrote 50.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. I mean,
that's
I wrote
a lot. That's a lot on all sides.
Yeah. Like, you know, and some people are like, well, so-and-so wrote 500. I'm like, yeah, but all they're doing is writing. Like, if I was only writing at this point in my career, knowing what I know, having the infrastructure and the tools and resources that I have, I think I could do that. That doesn't sound that hard to me. Like, yep. In May, I wrote 52 new apps in 1 month, and I documented it. I made a YouTube video about it. Anybody can go find it. And again,
really, really fast, you guys, just a reminder, the average Medicare agent writes 5 apps a year.
Yes.
Right. I just want to put that out there really fast too. Is like, when you're trying to, like, what's a baseline comparison for what Christian's talking about? Well, the average Medicare agent is going to probably do less than 10 apps all year, including AEP. Okay.
And I don't bring that up to like brag or anything.
Right.
I'm more bringing it up to say last year was a hellish year for me. Like, you and I talked. I mean, it sounds great. It wasn't great for me.
Right.
You know, like, the company did really well, but I was considering quitting last year a couple of times. Like, I was just not happy. I was not having fun.
Burned out.
Totally. Like, all the time. I was always working, always working. It felt like, you know, I'd be at home late at night and I'd be on my phone answering messages, emails, things like that, taking phone calls. My wife got really frustrated with me a bunch of times. Like, I should probably interview her about this.
That would be awesome.
And it's not to say that stuff still doesn't happen occasionally.
Maybe I should interview your wife.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We're going to make this happen. But
a wives podcast, bro. Our wives just talking about us being workaholics.
Yeah. But like, I was working 80, 90 hours a week all year round, basically. Like, it just, it's not something that was sustainable. Something had to give, you know, and a lot of people were like, well, you're not writing business anymore. You should still write business to be sharp. I'm like, you don't understand what I was having to do on a day-to-day basis, right? Like, I need less tasks on my plate. And I couldn't agree more with what you said there, because I feel like most people can't do that even for a year like I did. And nor should they want to, right? Like, I'm just lucky that I'm not like divorced or something right now, you know, like, because it was a hard year internally for my family, for me.
Sure.
You know, people see me go off on somebody in the Facebook group. It's probably because I'm tired and I'm in a bad mood and I'm cranky, you know, like,
he hasn't had dinner yet.
Yeah.
He's a hungry boy.
Sleep last night, but
tired and hungry.
But I couldn't agree more with that, because to really scale and grow a company for you, the founder, the agency owner in your business, you have to, and Glen is probably the person that's taught me this as much as anybody, you know, just through getting to know him. How many times would we talk on the phone and you're like, dude, you're doing too many things on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. Every time we talk.
All the time.
Yeah.
this year, and I've always hired people and kind of, so it's not like I'm doing everything in my office on a day-to-day basis. Like I have employees and staff and things like that, but we've hired a lot more staff this year. We brought on more people. We're building out the infrastructure to where on most days, minus give or take here and there, I'm not touching contracts. I'm not talking to new clients. I'm not talking to old clients. Sometimes I have to talk to old clients. There's some situations where it's just absolutely have to, but it's few and far between now. The company is kind of like a well-oiled, it's growing into a well-oiled machine where I'm not as needed for a lot of the day-to-day stuff. What I'm needed to do is bring in new agents, train the existing agents, do webinars and trainings and promotions and things like that, and handle the marketing internally. That's what I feel like. If you really want to take the next jump in your company, you have to figure that out. And I think that comes with time management, about finding where you're most valuable in your business and doing only that.
Going back to that, and now, because again, you're kind of touching on the same thing, the analogy of, writing business versus growing your team. On the short term, one of those is going to have a significantly higher ROI, and it's not growing the team. That's a negative ROI. You're going to lose time. You're going to lose money. I was just talking to an agency owner this week, and he had just met with his CPA, and he was kind of talking to me about his year. And he was talking about how he actually, his top line revenue, his gross revenue was 50% higher in 2021 versus 2020, right? Huge jump. But then his bottom line was 30% less. And that's the sort of squeeze that happens from growing your team, growing your company, growing your business, focusing on training, focusing on bringing in new agents. So he worked more. He brought in significantly more money, but he actually was less profitable. But long term, that could change. Long term, obviously, the goal for him, I guarantee it, is to take that gross, that top line, continue to have it grow, but then have the margin grow with it and have that bottom line continue to grow. And so I think that's where it's really hard, is that uncomfortable growth, that negative ROI, that loss of time, that loss of money when it comes to growth and that growth mindset. And that's why I feel like a lot of agents end up just focusing on production. They just keep selling. Because it's really hard to do. It's hard to completely jump out and jump in. But the reality is if you can figure it out, there's way more money long-term, right? In growing a team, growing an agency.
I think it also comes with there's levels to this.
Right.
So I want to say this, and I won't spend a lot of time in it, but I know somebody will listen to this and they'll be like, I have 20 apps under my belt and I need to grow a team.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you brought this up.
You just don't. Okay. I said something recently where I'm like, I think if you have, this might be harsh, so I'm going to adjust my number, but I told somebody recently, I think if you've written less than 1,000 clients, you probably shouldn't recruit anybody. But I would even adjust that to 500.
Yeah.
I think, you need,
I was going to ask us, but I was going to say, what do you think specifically before someone starts recruiting or growing a team? And so you beat me to it. I don't know what the sweet spot is. And I think it varies for everybody.
Yes.
But if you've been selling for less than a year, if you've been, if you have less than 100 clients, there's a lot of things that I can tell you right now where I know for a fact you're not ready, right? Obviously it starts, it's a moving target. It's a variable based on that person for sure.
For me, I just think about myself as a new agent.
Right.
And I was a bad boy in year 2, 3, 4, right? I knew I was really good, but would I have been able to bring somebody else on and teach them and work with them and would it have hurt my business? Yes, it would have. One thing, in my early years, being the downline of my dad's agency, he didn't let me recruit. He wouldn't let me do it. And I'm when I look back at it, I'm glad he didn't,
Right.
because it would have hurt me long term.
100%.
My advice to an agent, if anybody wants it, is if you want to be successful and you're listening to this as a new agent, put all of your energy, time, and focus into picking one niche, master that one niche, and getting as big of a book of business as you possibly can, and worry about nothing else. I'm not saying that you can't recruit and do that kind of stuff later, because I did, but I didn't recruit my first agent till I was in year 6. And I think that is the best way to do it, because you have a book of business established, you have revenue coming in, you might have 1 or 2 people working for you. It's not going to feel as much of a workload, right? Like I always say, one agent is probably as much work as 100 clients. I really believe that. I really believe that.
Yeah, I know you do.
and I think there's no money in recruiting unless you're bringing on hundreds of agents, if not 500 to 1,000 agents at a time, because 90% of them are not going to do anything, no matter what you do for them. And I think that's an important thing for people to hear.
Yeah, downline agents specifically, every 10 that you recruit, every 10 that you contract, chances are only 1 will end up producing on a daily or weekly basis. And that's been proven time and time again in the industry. And I've talked to so many uplines, FMOs, IMOs, call centers. There's always exceptions to the rule, but that's the general rule, is that about 10% or less will ever actually produce on a consistent basis. I want to jump into, before we get too far into this and we're running, before we run out of time, I like how this conversation has started, but I also want to talk about specifically some of the distractions, some of the red herrings, some of the things that we watch these agents on a day-to-day basis go down these rabbit holes, where it's like almost puzzling to us, where it's like, why are you spending your time? And this is, we kind of talked a lot about on the agency owner side, but I also want to talk just like individual independent agents, distractions, time wasters. Like, I want to talk about what we're seeing consistently among these agents, and I want you to start. Why don't you go ahead? Tell me something that you're seeing that puzzles you.
There's so many things.
I know there's a lot. Start with one.
I mean, the CRM thing is one that we've already done a whole episode about, so I won't touch on that, but that's one.
Yes.
I think I think agents obsessing over their commission is another. And what I mean by that is, like, I'm not telling people you shouldn't look into seeing what your commission is or something like that, because you want to be aware relatively, right, of what you're paid. You want to make sure that you're getting the contract that you should be getting. You want to make sure you're not accidentally contracted as an LOA and you didn't know it,
Oh, Lordy, yes.
All that stuff. So disclaimers. But there's plenty of agents out there that they do more time analyzing their commission than they do writing business.
Yep.
And that is insanity to me. So I have people that will come to me for they'll come to me for some kind of product line that they've never written one policy for. And they're like, all of a sudden, it's a rush and it's super urgent that they get their commission schedule like immediately. They're like, I need to know what my commission schedule is on X product, or maybe it's one of our GAs. And they're like, I need to know what my override is on the X product. And I'm like, well, you haven't written anything yet. So I'm like, are you planning on writing something? I'm like, what is the urgency, right? Like, because there's so many times where that request comes through and we provide it, but like we have to dig it up and send it to you. And you know what I mean? It's some work on our end, especially if there's a bunch of them, of those requests coming through all the time. It's work for your FMO. It's work for your IMO to do that stuff. And then you never end up writing any business with it. It's like, what was the point of all that? Right? What was the point of
I think the thing that you just described, I think it's an epidemic on the life side of the business, where I can't even tell you how many agents get so focused on the percentage they're being paid on every single application, where they will spend weeks or months talking to recruiters, IMOs, FMOs, hey, I've got a 120 on this contract with Foresters. Can you give me 125? And like the reality is that 5% and the 100 hours that agent spends shopping, trying to find that 5% is worth essentially zero if they had spent that 100 hours. And like, I swear I'm not making this up. It sounds crazy when I'm saying, like, it sounds crazy to even say this, but if they had spent that 100 hours trying to sell insurance on a 120, instead of trying to find that 125 contract and then start selling, they would have made a ton more money. The saying that I always see among a lot of these life insurance recruiters or uplines is, 125% of zero is still zero. So it's like you're chasing that commission. Yeah. I just can't. I've seen so many agents make a ton of money on low contracts. And so that's like, you're putting the cart before the horse. I think that's another great saying. It's like, get the production, guys. Once you have a few $100,000 in production, at that point, yeah, let's talk about commission levels. Spend 100 hours talking to uplines about commission levels. Don't come into the industry and either as a new agent or after selling for a few months, start shopping everybody and spending all this. What a waste of your time and money and energy. It's just crazy. It's really crazy.
It's insanity to me. Like, there's people that come to us and they're like, I need to know what my override is on this XYZ product. And it's a product they've never written. We barely write it, right? It's just like this it's this relatively obscure product. And it might be on like a med sup or something, right? And like the difference of override is possibly like maybe one, maybe 2 points, right? Like, so for every $100 of premium that person's writing, if they have 1 point higher than what they, or whatever the case might be, it's literally $1 for every $100 of premium you're writing. That's the difference. And people will spend 10, 15 hours on this, 20 hours trying to figure this out. And like, and sometimes people will come to me on some of these contracts that maybe we don't do a lot of business with. And I'm like, I don't even know what my override is on that off the top of my head. You know why? Because I don't care. I don't write it. You're probably not going to write it. Right. Like, I'd understand if you did the key point, 10, 15 apps.
Yeah. The key point that you made there that I think I want to emphasize for any listeners or anyone watching this is when he broke down how that percentage is essentially the equivalent of like $1 or a couple dollars per app. So it's like, on one hand, the agent is trying to justify that higher commission level because they're thinking, I'm going to get paid more money. But the reality is that higher commission level is not actually worth nearly what just writing an extra client would be worth, right? One extra client would be worth 100 of this tiny little bump you're trying to get. And not that it's not justified down the road, maybe it would be. If once you're talking about 1,000 clients, that little percent might be worth more, but on an individual basis, it's really not worth anything on a dollar level. And that 5% on life contracts that everybody tries to chase, it's the same thing. You're talking about you're stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. Mm-hmm. You're literally stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. This one drives me nuts, dude. That's a big one.
And I feel like the message is going to get misconstrued because I do think it's a good idea to know what your what your commission is relatively, right? But like, at least have an idea of what you're looking at. Like, if you put me on the spot right now and said, okay, Christian, you guys have 35 contracts or 40 contracts, which probably is pretty realistic at this point. And you had me go through every single one and tell me what my override is on every single one of them, I could tell you what the big boys are. I know those. I deal with those every day practically, right? But some of the others, I'd probably know roughly, but it's going to get a little fuzzier at that point because my time is not best spent obsessing over a couple of points or something, or having my overrides memorized or something like that. I just don't understand. And the other thing I wanted to mention that I think goes with this, I know we're short on time, but one last topic, and I wanted to get your thought on this as well, that I think relates to this, is agents that spend tons of time, all the time, obsessing over checking their commission statements with a fine-tooth comb and making sure that there's nobody missing. And then if they feel like there is somebody missing and they didn't get paid on it, they go on this wild goose chase. They have their upline go on a wild goose chase. A lot of times it ends up, they ended up getting paid on it after all. Right. And it's just a waste of everybody's time. Right. Like, and I always tell people this, I have a pretty big operation at this point, right? We've grown a lot. We have a lot of clients. We have a lot of commission that comes in ourselves internally. We have overrides that come in. Like there's stuff coming in from all different directions, it seems like. There's probably all kinds of stuff that we miss, but it's not worth it to obsess over it and spend all this time on it. We'd probably just rather get more business, right? Like,
let me kind of clarify, because I totally agree with everything you're saying, but I want to offer some clarity. And this is, again, this is just in line with like the comp conversation we just had. It's not that getting the best comp isn't important. It is. You should try to get your best comp, and understanding what your comp is also important. We're not saying that. It's just the time wasted when you're trying to navigate that. And this is the same thing. You should check your commission statements. But if you are trying to go through every single commission statement, every single time you get it, I think your time would be much better spent if you did that. Like maybe it's once a quarter, right? Maybe once a quarter, or maybe if you're a new agent and your book's really small, maybe you're doing it once a year. Exactly. You're going through. It's time management. We're not saying don't do it. We're saying manage your time better and do it on a quarterly or biannual basis.
Yeah.
And maybe you pay someone to do that for you, you guys. Maybe someone else is doing that for you, because again, your time should be worth about $200 to $400 an hour, really minimum. And so if you're just pushing paper all day, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Right. Exactly. Like, I feel like some agents spend more time analyzing their commission statements than they do selling. And I don't understand that. I don't understand what the thought process behind that is. I think it's because agents don't ask themselves a very important question. And that is, how much is an hour of your time worth? People don't think that way. How much is an hour of your time worth? And every hour you give up or waste or lose is costing you that amount of money.
Can we, like, as we're wrapping up here, can we rapid fire some additional, because we've only gotten into a few. I mean, social media, right? I mean, social media is a huge time suck. Again, you might think you're being you're using your time wisely. If you're like, well, I'm asking a question about a possible client, that's great. But you could also just call your carrier that you're trying to write that app with. They could do a health assessment over the phone with you, and you can get a legitimate answer immediately. You don't need to be posting all over social media about, I've got a prospect I'm trying to sell, and this is the situation. I mean, what else? What's some other quick ones?
About social media, I always tell people, like, people that are one-man shows or don't have anybody like, that work for them, that maybe help them with their content creation and posting and things like that. Like, if you're like, let's say your upline's a one-man show and they're posting on Facebook 5 to 10 times a day, your upline doesn't run any business. Their business is to post on Facebook and recruit you.
Yeah.
So let's take
I know a few individuals right off the top of my head when you say that.
So let's take Christian Brindle into account, because Christian Brindle posts a lot on Facebook.
Right.
Christian Brindle has virtual assistant with you guys. Pretty much they post on every social media platform. I don't see LinkedIn posts. So if you message me on LinkedIn, it's not me. It's not me messaging you back. I never see it most of the time.
Christian's
Twitter.
Tinder profile, same way.
Yes, Tinder, same
That's
thing.
not Christian.
That's not me. But like all these platforms, like Facebook, it's probably going to be me, but not on our business pages. It won't be me.
Right.
And then also, the posts that go up, I'm not the one posting them. I'm not the one maybe designing the posts all the time. When I post in the Facebook group, it's me, but I'm not posting it in real time. I'm not posting it at 11:30 in the morning in the middle of the day. I scheduled that post the night before when I had time.
Yep.
Right. So like, got to think about these things.
There's a lot, you guys, and we're kind of running out of time here, but we could probably spend 5 hours going through distractions. I mean, it's as kind of like, I'll share some of my final thoughts and then we'll get final thoughts from Christian. But another one that I'm going to share here, technology. Okay. So Christian already mentioned CRMs, which kind of falls into this, but I'll see the question about, what tablet should that one comes up like every day. It's like, what tablet should I use to sell insurance, or what computer should I buy? What phone do I need? It doesn't freaking really matter at the end of the day. Again, that's a distraction. That's a waste of your time. If you spend 2 months trying to shop through all your different options, thinking that if you get the right device, then you're going to be successful. That's
right.
Again, just another waste of your time. The shiny object syndrome, the squirrel syndrome, right? Like, squirrel, there's a lot of agents like that, short attention spans. I really think Christian said it best, that the question that's not being asked enough is, what is an hour of your time worth? And if you don't know, you need to really stop everything you're doing and figure out an answer to that question before you really do anything else. So that's kind of my final thoughts on today's episode, you guys. Christian, final thoughts.
Yeah. I don't know if my verbiage on some of these things was super well articulated, but I would say, just my final thoughts is like, hear what we're saying. Go back and listen to this episode twice if you need to. I'm not saying don't check your commission statements, but like Glen said, check them quarterly or maybe even once a year if you need to, whatever you got to do. My staff internally does an audit every quarter of our commission. So we do it, but outside of that, we're not looking at it.
How many carriers, like if you have 10 carriers and you're checking every single month and you're doing it with your own time and you're going through and then you have downline agents and you're going through your downline aid, like you're talking, it's a lot of time that you're spending.
Yep. 100%. Like, and if you're one of those people that you're contract happy, that's another time waster that we didn't get to. Just fill out every contract under the sun and you have like Christian Brindle needs 30 to 40 carriers. Our organization's basically a income, it's a business writing operation, but we're also in the works of growing into an FMO. We need a lot of carriers, right? Like we need more and more as we come, but we pick them up as we need them. We don't just pick them up to pick them up. So yeah, I mean, I would say, just make sure that you understand the message behind this. Cause I feel like my words get misconstrued a lot. Maybe it's because I'm not communicating it properly, but understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't do any of these things. I'm saying don't obsess over them and make sure that the time you spend on them warrants what they're actually worth. And you're not, and you're not spending more time on that than you are on income producing activities.
I think that's very clear. I understand, like, again, there's certain agents who might try to cherry pick, like, oh, well, Christian said, Christian said to not look at my commission. It's like, no, he didn't. This is time management. This whole topic today was time managing your time properly.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, I love this episode. I love this discussion. And we'll be back next Tuesday with another episode. Keep eating tacos, even though we're not. And make sure to keep writing business. And we'll see you next week.